Welcome back, my brave and beautiful humans, to another episode of Soul Hygiene. I'm excited to have our new friend, Miss Wendy, back with us for the second time on the podcast. I just downloaded our last show. I think we recorded that a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah.
there's just so much to talk about in this realm of, giving. I mean, I love what Miss Wendy does. She gives hope to parents and to kids to hopefully reconcile them together. But as we were talking before we started recording, it just seems like with the age of social media, everything is more has come to light more than it did in the days, when everything wasn't recorded. So it seems like there's a lot more going on between parents and children these days, but you know, like Miss Wendy said, maybe it's always been there. I'm not really sure. It's kind of hard to determine that.
Yes. And I think it's more socially acceptable now to talk about it on social media. My parents are toxic. I want nothing to do with them. I don't feel safe around them.
Yeah.
And, there's a big difference between feeling safe from an abusive, let's just say mother, because that's mostly who I serve. Not because I don't want to help dads, but because
Right. Yeah.
moms are the ones who put their hands up and go, I need some help with this, please.
Right.
And dad's kind of like, oh, okay, I see you around. And yeah, I mean, there's lots of different reasons why parents and children are estranged. And I can speak from both sides of that because my mother and I did not get along well. And there was at one point where I was this close to like, I'm done. And I couldn't do it because my heart went out to her. And I thought, she's old, she's whatever. And I went back and, we resolved things. And at the end of her life, we were in a good place. So I feel like I worked all of that mother-daughter stuff through. And then I had to deal with my son and me as the mom. And so the various reasons, I mean, the reason for the rift, and we're going to talk a little bit about rift and reconciliation tonight. The rift between my mom and me had more to do with personality clashes and her lack of boundaries, shall we say. And with my son, it was more about his life stage and his mistaken assumption that a relationship with a parent has to have some things in common. And I'm like thinking, I'm not your girlfriend, I'm your mother. Right? And in fact, I think it's what they focus on. They're probably looking for reasons to have less contact because they have very busy lives. They have relationships that they need to tend to and jobs, and they're just busy and they don't really want to bother with parents for a while. However, there's a difference. I started talking about this difference between someone who has betrayed you, who has abused you, who has neglected you. And so that type of mom, I think that she still deserves forgiveness, but perhaps it's a little longer process and it takes a while and in order for the young person to feel like they have enough command and control of their own lives before they can reach out to someone who has hurt them so deeply. And a lot of that may never happen, right? The reconciliation of that relationship may never happen because the wounds run too deep. And then there's the other side where the mom did the best she could. She was a loving mom. There was no abuse there. There was only, oh, we have such a great relationship. I love being a mom. It was the number one thing I wanted to do. And now I have no idea, no clue what I did wrong. In fact, I have a client right now who's been separated at her daughter's will. Like her daughter initiated this separation 12 years ago. And I helped my client write a letter of amends and apology with toward the end, the ask, can we please start over? I can't tell you what the results are because we just did it last week. However, she got back to me with an email and said, if these words don't do what we want them to do, nothing will. Yeah. So I worked with her back and forth on several drafts because it's you can't do a letter one size fits all. It has to be from the heart. It has to be what you want to say to your adult child, but there's no opportunity to do it. And frankly, it's pretty much one of the last things that you will try before you just sit and wait and not try and reach out. So the other side of it, I talked about the trust being broken and the betrayal. The other side is children of divorce. One parent it paints the other one in a negative light, and the kid doesn't know what to believe. The poor thing is being gaslighted with, well, no, that didn't actually happen. Oh, I know it did. I mean, that's a really ugly situation because no parent should speak poorly of the other, simply because that child is a combination of both those parents. And when you criticize one parent, you're actually criticizing an essential part of your own child. Right. So let's see what else. Different lifestyle choices where you may choose to live an alternative lifestyle. And it can be anything. It could be, maybe you want to live in the tent city in downtown, or maybe you're making a choice in your sexuality that's more fluid than your parents think it should be. I mean, there's all kinds of situations where parents can go, no, I can't do that, or the child will go the same way. It's like, you're with somebody else now, Mom, and I don't like him. I have a client right now whose daughter says that to her. And what is she going to do? She loves her husband. She's married to her husband. Her daughter is 23, 24. And really, it's not her daughter's business who her mother is married to.
Right. There's so many things that you're saying that just, hit me already. Yeah. I was a single mom for a lot of my kids' growing up years. But
me too.
We dealt with a lot of those instances. The one thing that I'm glad I didn't do was criticize their father.
And see, you're one step up on me. I was not as evolved as you when my son was growing up.
Well, I don't know if I was evolved. I just hung as much as I could. I mean, you're right though, but they're his too, and I think my thinking was, as they get older, they'll just see for themselves. They will choose for themselves, and they will, they'll make their own choices, and they have. Yes. And it wasn't, me saying, don't do this, or, why do you want to have a relationship with it? None of that,
I wasn't quite that bad either, but still, I could have kept my mouth shut a little more.
And that's the thing, we learn, right? I mean, we're human. We make mistakes too. And
we do. And we have to forgive ourselves, because if I had it spelled out to me the way I just spelled it out to you and your listeners and viewers, I would hope that people would give some contemplation to those words.
Yeah.
Because it's your child's other parent, and whatever his or her deficiencies are, it's not enough to make your child stop loving their parent. And the estrangement is so brutal on whoever is being pushed out of the family. It's soul destroying. Mm-hmm. And my client who I wrote her letter for her with her. She's going to be 78. So time is running out, and she doesn't know why her daughter hasn't been in touch with her for 12 years.
You sometimes see that, especially nowadays, where unfortunately, the younger generation is inundated with if you don't have the same core values as me, or if you don't believe, well, we'll just go there politically.
Yes.
You're out. And I've seen so much of that, and that hurts my soul.
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
my children. They have a free will. They're free to believe, speak, have a lifestyle that I don't have to agree with, but I'm going to love them because they're my child.
Yes.
And
so
I think that's something parents miss, is like telling their children, I love you no matter what. You have to understand that.
And the thing is you're going, like you said, you're going to love them anyway. So just agree to not talk about certain topics that are too much like this, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a fairly simple solution.
Yeah.
Certainly you could find the love if you think back on how you were raised and how, well, I mean, maybe not even that, but there would be some commonality that you could think about and have some compassion, give some grace. When I was doing my research into forgiveness in preparation for creating products to help my clients, I learned something that I think we all know intuitively, but until someone points it out to you, you're like going, oh, yeah. Forgiveness and apologies are essential in healthy relationships, because guess what? We're all going to say something will tumble out of our mouths and it'll be stupid or it'll be wrong and someone will take offense. And so what do? Do you push the relationship aside and say, we're done? Or do you just say, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It just came out. I apologize. And the idea of apology being a weak thing or a strong thing, I believe it's very, very strong, because it's putting aside your ego for the continuation of the relationship.
Right.
You don't always have to be right.
I was just going to say that.
Mom.
I was just going to say that. For me, I think I've learned as I've gotten older, especially with my own children, even though I believe I'm right, I don't have to express that I'm right. I can let that situation go and just have grace for them. I think everybody, if they believe in something wholeheartedly, right? If you have your core values, you believe what you believe is right. That's what being a person and having core values is. But you're not going to agree with every single person. And I guarantee that there's not one person in this world that is going to have exactly your beliefs and exactly your values. And so I think the adage that you just said is, do I always have to be right? I would rather have peace with a person and be able to have a relationship than constantly badger them that I'm right about this and you're wrong. Like, that doesn't get you anywhere.
It does not. It does not endear you to the other person in the least to insist that you're right. And it can leave space to have a relationship when you do give that person grace and say, you know what? That's their generation. Or, you know what? Doesn't really bother me that much. We could just not talk about it. Or I could just go, maybe she'll change her mind someday. All of those things would be acceptable. Yeah. And coming to an agreement is another way of saying a boundary. This topic, we know it's incendiary. It's going to set the house on fire if we talk about it. So let's just avoid having to call the fire department.
Well, and I think that's the thing that I have learned with my adult children, and with other people's children. It's kind of like what you just said. I know, and we discuss, we don't talk about these topics. And we're fine. We have a great relationship. Yes. Right. But it also leaves, I think when you do that, and like I said, I've had to learn this because I didn't know how to stop being a mom with my adult children. I always want, I want to help you. What can I, and then they're like, Ma, we're adults, like step back, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to not be a mom.
Yeah.
But I think when you have that discussion, like I've learned, you have that discussion, you set those boundaries, you have a mutual respect that leaves room for conversation in the future.
Yes.
When each party is ready to have the conversation because you respect each other, you've set
Yes.
those boundaries. And I love that you said that because that is so true. And what you, I'm going to be 50 years old this year. And it's only been in the last 5 years that I've learned how to have that communication and not be an overbearing mom to my children because, we went through 25 years of trauma together. And I felt very, very guilty for it. But
I believe that and here we're going to get into something somewhat spiritual, but I really do believe that we choose our parents to be able to have the type of parent that will enable us to learn and do and grow in our lives. And what if that were true? What if it was set up that way intentionally and you were part of that decision? How would that change how you treat your parents? And even if that scenario is not inside your realm of belief, what about if you just see them as human beings the same as you are? They make mistakes, they're not perfect, they have things they're working through, and just give them some grace.
and
Would it kill you?
Exactly.
Probably not.
You know what? I was blessed to have children who gave me grace. Because
Lovely.
when we sat down, I might get a little teary-eyed with this, but I'm so, so proud of my children.
I love that. I love that you can say that and that you're tearing up over it because that's just your outpouring of love, right?
I am so proud of them because, they are kind, they're compassionate, they will help anybody. And then
Yes.
we had our issues. Like we went through such a tumultuous time together.
Yes.
They went through every relationship with me and all the abuse with me. And I'm thankful that God did not allow them to be abused, but they had to live with it with me. And their abuse was, more emotional. But
and witnessing what their mother was
right,
going
exactly.
through.
And so when we had our conversation in 2019, when I was like, I just apologized. I was like, I'm sorry that I put you guys through this. I'm sorry that we went through all of this. And every single one of them was like, it's okay, Mom. You did your best. We don't hold anything against you. We forgive you, and for me, that was like, it wasn't just the turning point of becoming victorious over being a victim. It was having my children forgive me and be like, let's move forward. And, I have two of the best sons in the world. I have a wonderful daughter who will go out of her way to help me with my parents and loves her grandma and grandpa. Yeah. And that's the hope. That's the hope that I want to give to people because we went through all of this and we still love each other. We still support each other. We don't agree with each other on certain things. We don't talk about certain things, but we have set those boundaries. And I'm learning how to be a mother outside of my trauma for my wonderful children who went through it.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful because you've got good communication that everybody knows where everybody stands. And that's something not every family knows how to do because they're not raised that way. And so you are an example of what can happen when you do communicate well. And part of what I teach my clients is about advanced communication skills. And that's really, really important, along with boundaries, along with forgiveness and self-compassion and self-care and getting some clarity about who you are and what you need to work on and how you need to move forward.
Yeah.
it's just such a complicated, well, human beings are complicated, but this is a complicated problem.
It is. Yeah.
And um, I, I, I always kind of I laugh a little to get them to see that there's another way of looking at the way things appear now may look hopeless. You may think, oh, I'll never see my child again. And it's like, oh, come on. You are going to be the parent of an adult child much longer than you were the parent of a young dependent child. There are years and so many life milestones that your children will go through over the next few years, and you can't give up. You're always going to be their mother. They're always going to be your child. And there's always hope as long as the both of you are still alive to work it through.
That's for sure.
And so you're right. The word is hope, simply because a lot of the moms that I talk to, they've lost hope. They're in despair. They're desperate. They really, really want to resolve this problem because it sits on their hearts, if I can use that expression. Mm-hmm. It sits on their heart.
And I can't say that we didn't go through our hard times learning how to navigate, but it's the learning process. And sometimes I feel like even though, we're all human and we make mistakes, and that is for sure. Sometimes it's up to the parent to be the one to say, hey, I'm sorry. Whatever, I'm not sure what I did, but if I did something, I need you to forgive me so that I can have this relationship with you.
Yes. It's such a primal, important relationship, the one with mother, the one with father. And when it's rejected, I don't believe that it's healthy for the child who thinks it's healthy for them to do that. I don't believe it's healthy. I believe that their safety and security in the world is wrapped up in mom. And I'm not saying all moms are like that, not by any stretch, but I am saying that creates a wound, not having a good relationship with your mother, that you have to navigate your way through. And it's not an easy route, let me tell you. I went through it.
And I mean, I want to let our audience know we're talking about surface stuff. We're not digging deep into where you have things that happen to you in your childhood and assault and all that. This is,
that's not what we're talking about at all.
That's a completely different topic, but
exactly.
This is more just like emotional. I feel like it's more of one perspective not agreeing with the other perspective and, assuming things. I think a lot of assumptions are based on estrangement, honestly. Like you assume something that is not true, but instead of asking, you believe they're going to lie to you, so you're done anyway. And it's, it's kind of like you have to, at some point, I think grace is a really good word because at some point you have to be able to say, okay, giving grace is saying, okay, let me listen to you. Let me see what you have to say. Let us have a conversation.
Yes, and it's also avoiding being the judge, jury, and executioner, handing out a sentence where it's like, you're dead to me, which is what a lot of estrangement is. Estrangement is on a continuum, though. There's people who just don't have enough time with their kid and they feel like they're estranged. And then there's people over here who haven't seen their child in 12 years or more. And each mom is feeling the grief and the deprivation of not having the contact that she wants with her child. And then she needs to, in order to find peace, because you cannot control them, you need to go inside and go, okay, so how much of what I'm suffering is something I'm bringing on myself? I love the Byron Katie quote, expectations and assumptions create misunderstandings, upset, and disconnection in relationships.
Mhm.
That says it all for me. I love that quote. It's even appropriate when moms think that, oh, of course I'm going to be in my daughter or my son's life for the rest of my life, and of course they're going to have grandchildren, and of course I'm going to do grandmother things and all of this. And really, there's no right involved in that, meaning you don't have any rights to have either situation. You're not in control of your adult child. You're not in control of their children. And so the interesting thing that I've worked on, especially around Christmas with moms, is, so what is it that you might have time to do now that you didn't have time to do when you were raising your child? And what is it that you could do to make a difference in the world in a different way, to reassign the energies that you might have put into being, talking with your daughter every night, or playing with the grandkids, as wonderful and as sentimental and as gut-wrenching as it is on all levels, not having those things. But what could you be doing to give back to the world in a different way that could bring you a great deal of joy and satisfaction?
Well, and I love that you say that, because I think sometimes parents miss that. Their mind is so on their children and the whys and the whys and the whys. It's like you could do so much more.
Yes.
And be an example for your children.
A role model, even when your kids are grown.
Yeah. Let them see that you're doing something good with your life, and you're out and you're helping people, and maybe going back to school. I heard a couple stories. I'm not going to quote people because I have no idea where I saw this article, but it was a mother who went back to school, hadn't spoken to her son probably in 15 years. She was in her 60s, went back to school and got her college degree, and he was there to watch.
He went to her graduation?
Yeah, to watch her walk.
Oh my goodness.
And
that's lovely.
They were close after that because he saw that she had changed her life. He had saw that she had made a difference. And I think that's so important. We do not need to wallow.
That's right. Because it's a waste of your God-given life, right? You're here. So figure out a way to make it worthwhile for you and for the world around you. And don't waste it, because time is ticking away, people.
Yeah. And there's so much you could do.
You want to make it beautiful.
Yes. And your children will see that. That's the thing. I thought for many years I had screwed up my life. I had screwed up my children's lives. I had, because of living through this trauma for so many years.
Yeah.
And to have God show me grace, and for my kids to show me grace, and to be able to say, you know what? I'm not a victim and I have a purpose still,
Yes.
And to see my kids out there, they're seeing that I'm making a difference in my life and I have a purpose, and I'm not in trauma situations. I haven't repeated that cycle anymore.
Yes.
And that has made a difference to them, how they look at me.
And you're able to feel the joy and the purpose in your life, and that you have so many more things that you want to experience in life. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just a beautiful thing that you have made happen too, Miss Teejay. It's you making the right choices and being open and loving, and not criticizing and not judging and not trying to control your adult children. Those are big deals. A lot of moms think that they can tell their adult children what to do and who to love, and that does not go over well. And you're setting yourself up for that. No, don't come around. And then what are you going to miss out on?
Yeah. Well, and I'm not saying I didn't. Sometimes I don't fight the urge to say, hey, that's the wrong choice. But they're adults. They have to learn
Just say, it's okay, Mom, we got this.
Yep, exactly. And you know
Like,
what? They've said that. And then the awesome thing is that if and I'm not going to put on other parents. I'm going to say me. When I sit back and I'm quiet and I let them make choices, they come to me and say, "Mom, what do you think about this?"
right, right.
And
It's
you
because
know how,
they
yeah,
know you're going to listen, and you're going to and you're going to be quiet, and that they know you care, and they know you're not going to try and tell them what to do. You're going to offer a nice, gentle suggestion if they
sometimes
ask.
exactly. Sometimes they just need a suggestion, not I am going to tell you. No, just
Yes.
listen, offer your opinion, your suggestion, but don't beat them over the head with it. And then support them in whatever decision they make, whether you agree with it or not. That's what I've had to learn. I may not agree with their choices.
Yes.
I'm going to support them because they're my children. And I'm going to be there when they fall and they fail, because they will. And then they know what it feels like. And then they'll get up and they'll try to be successful.
Exactly.
But they have to have a parent who believes in them and encourages them. And if that's all, I struggle to be my kids' friend sometimes, because you want to be that, no, please don't do this type mom. But I think through my own healing journey, I've been able to say, you know what? If you're going to fail, that's okay. I will be here when you're done and figure it out from there.
Well, we ended the letter to my client's 51-year-old daughter with, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And a daughter is always going to be a daughter, and the mom is always going to be the mom. I maintain that your daughter is not your friend. Your daughter is your daughter. You can be your daughter's friend, because a friend, what does a friend do? A friend gives advice when it's asked. A friend talks to you about boys or men or however old you are. But a daughter is not expected to advise her mom about her finances. I mean, unless she's a financial planner.
Right.
A daughter is not expected, nor is it considered a good idea if mom's having trouble with her husband or her boyfriend to talk to her daughter about her sex life or her relationship. That's not appropriate. And so it's an interesting mindset for parenting, in that you are someone unique and completely special in your daughter's life. No one can replace you. And as long as you understand that your main job, I believe, is being supportive emotionally to your adult child, everything's going to go well. I just really believe that. In that letter that I was talking about, my client wanted to make sure that her daughter knew that she had been doing therapy. She had read a lot of books, listened to podcasts, watched movies, and then she talked about having me as her coach. And she wanted her daughter to know that, so that her daughter would know that things have changed. Her mother has changed. And there's a reason to believe that there is hope from her standpoint, that mom is different and we actually can have a better relationship now.
And humans, we're human. We make mistakes, but the great thing is that we can learn and grow. We can be different.
Yes.
You don't have to stay stuck being the person you were 20 years ago.
And the interesting thing about relationships is that it really only takes one person to change. And when one person changes, and it's going to be the person who feels they want the relationship more than the other one, once they change, then they have different values, they have different beliefs, they have different thoughts. And so they need to be treated differently by the adult child, because the old stuff won't work. Right? Like pushing boundaries, or yelling and swearing. I mean, some people have problems with that. And that's a boundary issue as well. It's your own self-respect. It's your knowledge that your adult child is out of control and they're doing something that they know is wrong, yelling and swearing at their mother, and they need to be stopped. And it can be stopped if you decide that you're going to stick with your boundaries. One of the ways that I tell moms to do that, and I'm sorry if we're taking up a little more extra time here. I tell them, look, tell them that they're going to. I just lost my train of thought. What was I talking about there with the? Just a second here. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, it's something that moms need to be able to communicate their boundaries and not stop because they're getting resistance.
Right.
When you say to your adult child, stop, I deserve better, that is the truth. And to be able to say it a couple of times, stop, I deserve better. I deserve better too, blah, blah, blah. Look, honey, I really want to listen to you. I really want to hear what you have to say. But when you're yelling and swearing at me, that's all I can hear. Blah, 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 blah. I'd really like to have this conversation, and I think we can do it later. But for now, I think we have to let it go. And at that point, you've tried several times to shut down the abusive behavior. And I'll just use that word abusive because it is. You're yelling and swearing at your mom. That's abusive. And now it's time to walk away, hang up the phone, change the topic if you can. And so that's what I was trying to remember to say. So it did come to me. Yay.
I love that. And that's a great way to end the show, honestly, with just the honest feedback, setting up boundaries. I think, we didn't quite touch on the topic of rift, but we did. And
well, the whole thing is a rift, and then the whole coming together again is the reconciliation. Yeah, which so we kind of did it in a roundabout way.
Yes, we did. But I love that the two words that I really got from this is boundaries and grace. I think if we end the show with those two words, that speaks volumes for the type of person you are, the type of person you want to be, and the relationship you want to have.
Yes.
So yes. I love that. And I know we're going to have another episode because we got something to talk about. We kind of
talk about this for hours.
Like you said, we kind of went in a roundabout way, and I wasn't, I'm not going to apologize for getting emotional because I love my children. And
absolutely not.
We've had a life that, other people have had worse, but it was ours and it was our journey, and we made it and we're here. And sometimes I get emotional over that, knowing where we came from to where we are.
I can only imagine how masterfully your children manage their own emotional life. And I'm not saying that from a standpoint of expecting perfection. I'm saying it from being able to stand in their own power and know that they can get through anything because of what you've been through and how supportive you have been for them. So congratulations to you.
I think that they're learning that. I think that they're learning that.
Yeah.
So yeah. I love my kids, and I know they're going to be wonderful human beings as they get older, and they're going to learn so much more in life. And I'm excited to watch them. I'm excited.
Yes. The ever unfolding journey.
Yeah. It's exciting. So thank you so much for being here again with us. I really appreciate your presence and just, the blessing you are to these moms and, their kids. And they need that. They need some guidance in that. So I appreciate that. And we'll see Miss Wendy on another episode coming soon. So I'm excited to have you back. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Soul Hygiene. We'll see you later.